Colin, you are cannabis activist for 25 years already. That's something.
No, thank you. Yeah. My name's Colin Brian Davis, CBD. How did I get into this mess? I'm a carpenter by trade, and I was a shop fitter at the time. I had an accident, which basically was a fall over a fence, over a cliff, down about a 30-foot drop, and I landed on my back on a riverbed on rocks. This was Boxing Night 1995. I wasn't found until the next morning when the ambulances came and the fire brigade. I was resuscitated there with the electric, brought back to life basically on the riverbed there. I was resuscitated again at the hospital, so I was basically more or less twice dead. I was transferred to Sheffield Spinal Injuries Hospital. I'd fractured my spine in three places, shattered my clavicle and lost broken ribs, and I was in quite a bad way. At the time when I woke up, I felt like I was nailed to the bed. I couldn't move. I could move my head, but I couldn't move any other part of my body. I was paralysed. After being in the hospital about a month and still in the same position, not much recovery, and it was looking like I was never going to regain anything, and I felt terrible. I mean, this is in 1995 and we're at the brand new Sheffield Hallamshire Hospital. They had a room where patients could go for a smoke as well. They wheeled me bed to the smoke room, and there's another lady in a bed opposite. And she was saying that, she was a paraplegic, she'd been in a bad accident, and she actually held a joint up and said, "This is what helps me." And then went on to educate me about cannabis, really, and my father as well. Smoked about half the joint, and the cannabis just sort of took all the pain away that I had from being told that I'm never going to walk again. About 6 o'clock, the nurses was getting ready to go off shift and everything, and they came, and then this nurse woke me up and she said, "Colin, what have you done?" My knees was bent up in bed, and she said, how have you done that? And I said, "I don't know." I said, "I didn't do it." And then she said, "Just try and move your leg." And I moved my right leg, and my right leg moved a little bit. And then she said, "No, don't move anymore. Stop, don't move. Let me get someone." And then she rushed about and then brought one of the consultants there. And then they came back later and they got physiotherapy involved and things, and I was moving my legs after a couple of days. And when I got home, I started to look up about medical cannabis, because I didn't know anything about medical cannabis. I knew about recreational cannabis, social smoking cannabis.
But they gave you a lot of pills, probably.
Oh, when I got home, I had 2 bagfuls of tablets. It was morphine and tramadol and everything, and the Tilex tablets, it was burning my stomach out. And I asked one of my friends to get me some cannabis, and he went and got me some cannabis to the local pub. At the time it was just hash that he brought me, and that was okay. But then I found out about the weed, finding out about them, they could be medically better than the hash. And I got myself some seeds, and I started to grow some plants. At the time I was growing about 6 plants, and just with information I was finding on the internet, and I got a few books on it as well. Grew 1 crop, and then on my second crop, my door gets kicked in, the police are all over me, and I'm getting arrested for growing cannabis. I'm on the settee, and at the time I was quite ill. I go to court, and I defended myself on this occasion, and I said that it was because of duress of circumstance that led me to do this, because all other medicines that I tried didn't work for me, but cannabis did. Now, I told the jury this, and I brought expert witnesses along. And if you remember, in 1995, so I was in court in 96 the first time. Well, in 95 was the first time that they discovered the endocannabinoid system and made it publish in the British Medical Journal. And I was able to use that as my defence and show the jury that it does have medical properties. And the jury found me not guilty.
And this helped? This evidence about the endocannabinoid system?
Oh yes. Matthew Athler was he worked for he represented me at this, and he was he explained to the jury what it can do for pain and all the medical things, and they accepted that, and I was found not guilty. A unanimous verdict, was found not guilty. So that created, there was a lot of press at the time because it perhaps happened in the past, but it was new. It was 1996 and I was acquitted. So I went home, and when I went home, I got contacted by a lot of people, people who have MS in particular, was contacting me and telling me that they was using cannabis for their MS, but they had trouble getting hold of it. So
there was already information about healing potential of
yes,
cannabis.
Everybody was aware, especially for people with multiple sclerosis, was aware of it. There was two people in particular. There was a guy called Hamish Crisp, and he was up in Edinburgh, and he had very bad progressive MS. And there was another chap with a similar condition. He was Andrew Caldwell in Leeds. They both needed cannabis and I needed cannabis, and the police had took all my lights and equipment and everything. It was decided that I would do the growing, Andrew would pay for some equipment and Hamish would pay for the electricity bill, and we'd share the plants between ourselves. So I got a crop going, and I got one of the crops ready and everything, and we shared it, and we had some more left. So we decided, because people was contacting me all the time, and I had a list as long as my arm before the crop was even ready. I get my door kicked off, the police are there again, and this time they catch me with quite a nice setup, and I think I only had 27 plants at the time. We go to court again, and I call Andrew and Hamish as witnesses for the defence that it was, again, out of duress of circumstances that this happened, and we did it together as a group. And the jury listened to everything, and they again listened to why cannabis worked for Hamish and why cannabis worked for Andrew. And the jury again returned a not guilty verdict. So we was outside, and the press was there, and the TV and everybody, and it did set a precedent at that time. I go back home and start growing plants again. But then I realised that lots and lots of people was contacting me. Instead of a list as long as one of my arms, I've got a list as long as 2 arms and 2 legs, and from here to kingdom come. Everybody needs cannabis. Well, after my second bout in court, Elizabeth had wrote to the Queen saying that you should knight Mr. Davis, not prosecute him. But also, strangely, at the same time, a lady who lives in London who I was helping wrote a similar letter to the Queen, and I have a copy of the letters. And this lady was an Austrian baroness, and she'd been injured in a car accident when she was married to one of the Onassis, and she was a very rich lady, and lived on Park Lane in London, and I was helping her with the cannabis also. I was supplying her with cannabis. And I said, well, I'd like to meet Her Majesty the Queen. And there's hundreds of people there. There's no way we're going to see the Queen. There's 50 people deep between here and the front. The Queen has turned her back on us, and I'm shouting, Your Majesty, Your Majesty. And she turns around and changes the way she's going and comes over, and she's coming over, and I'll say, Your Majesty, my name's Colin Davis, and this is a sample of the flowers, the plants, the marijuana that I grow for the patients. And she looks at it, and then the lady in waiting takes it away, and I go to shake the Queen's hand, and the lady in waiting shows me to turn my hand that way, and the Queen puts her hand on mine, and she says, I know, and you must carry on with the good work. I was blown away at that, and I thought, does she really mean this, or doesn't she?
Did this have an impact on people then?
Well, it was in every newspaper on the front page in America, Australia, everywhere. It made big news.
So the Queen of England is supporting cannabis, if I understand.
I would say so. I mean, Queen Victoria used cannabis, All
right.
Why wouldn't she? Why, I mean, I'm not going to talk about the people who have supplied in the royal family with cannabis, because that's, privy. I met Prince Charles twice, and Princess Margaret, unfortunately, she died, but, I did have her. So after the Queen, and having lots of people needing cannabis, and I went over to see Noel again, and I told him the situation, and he said, we decided that it would be a good idea to open the same thing in England, a Dutch-style coffee shop. And the way that the Mediweed system worked was, The recreational social users subsidised the patients, so the patients got half price or free weed if they didn't have any money and stuff. So I thought, great model, we'll take that and we'll do that in Stockport. So me and Noel went over with a lot of other Dutch people, Maruska, Martin, and lots of names, and we made a coffee shop in this old Victorian shopping place, and it ran for 14 months. During that time I was imprisoned for quite a lot of the time, for smuggling and all sorts, and in the end I got 3 years imprisonment and I did the full 18 months. I didn't get any remission or anything because obviously I tested positive for cannabis all the time. I came out of prison in 2003. I had a bit of a rest. I was still helping people on the quiet, but you know, I was still licking my wounds after losing 18 months of my life.